Hey, what's going on, everyone? It is your girl Camille Prosperity in the route. This is my twice a month drive to pick up my son. 1.5 hours there, 1.5 hours back, 3 hours round trip. So to all of you parents who have primary custody of your child and visitation is something that you deal with, and you just drive 5 minutes to the McDonald's up the street, be happy. That's all you have to do, instead of driving to the McDonald's in a whole nother city. These drives give me a lot of time to think. They give me a lot of time to go through courses that I've bought, and sometimes I talk to y'all. Sometimes when the mood hits, I talk to y'all. So this is one of those times. I'm going to give you a quick disclaimer to my family and friends. I'm telling you right now, if you call or text or say anything to me about this live, you'll be blocked, okay? If you don't like the fact that I'm speaking on this, go to your platform and you do a video or a post or whatever your heart desires to say how you don't like what I did. But this is my platform and I will do with it as I please. I struggled with whether or not to share this story for a number of reasons, but ultimately, of course, hey, what's going on? Ultimately, of course, I decided to share it because I think it's going to help somebody. And usually when I think it's going to help somebody, I'm right. People get in my inbox and say, that really helped me. So I decided to share it. And so I titled this on Facebook. I don't know what it will be when it goes to YouTube, but I titled this on Facebook, how I handled finding out my son had a 25% in one of his classes this week. Yes, y'all. Hey, Megan. I found out this week that my son had a 25, as in a quarter, in one of his classes. Now, let me tell you this first. Progress reports just came out, and he had all good grades at progress reports. So imagine when I found this out, I was like, what the heck happened? And here's the scenario. I'm set up the scene for you, okay? I drive up to the school like I do every single day. And there's, some teachers standing outside. One of the teachers is my son's teacher. And I noticed that instead of waving to me, and it took me a minute to notice it, but instead of waving, she's motioning like, pull your window down. So I pull up and I'm like, yes, ma'am. What is it? Because I already know it's usually when they want to talk to you, it's not to be like, you have the best child in the world, even though I do. But that's usually not the time, right? So she goes, I just want to let you know your son is in, and my son, I see my son coming to the class, to the car, and his eyes are bulging. Y'all know I got big eyes. So when our eyes are bulging, we look like animals or something, right? So he's like, uh-oh. And the teacher tells me, I just want to let you know your son has a lot of missing assignments in my class, and some of them are heavy assignments. So right now, he has a 25 in my class. And if he doesn't get all of these done by tomorrow, that's just what it is. So I'm like, oh, okay. Thank you for letting me know. He gets in the car, I look at him, and I'm like, really? Really? And he's like, hey, Mom. And I'm like, what's the first thing we want to say, parents? Don't hate me. All right? Don't hate me. But I didn't say that. I was like, okay, guard my tongue. Be slow to speak. Be slow to speak. So we're driving. Of course, I have a million errands to run. I got to go to the post office, drop off packages. I got to go to the grocery store, get stuff for us to have for dinner for that night. There's things I have to do. So we're in the car. I feel the steam. I feel smoke coming off of my body. I feel, because my blood is boiling, I feel it, right? I feel it coming on. My son is sitting there looking straight ahead because he doesn't know what to say. He's scared to speak. Y'all know how it is. So immediately my impulse is to go off on him. What are you thinking? What's the problem? Da, 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 and just tear into him, right? However, and it's so funny because I was listening to my trading course today, and it's so funny how things in one area also can apply to other areas, right? And in my trading course, one of the things the lady was saying is trading is very emotional. She was like, it's very emotional. You're on this high, this high dopamine hit when you win, when you have gains, and then when you're in the valley, when you lose money, you're like, oh my gosh, I should have gotten out of the trade early. You're trying to decide. And she's like, one of the things I want y'all to do is when you're in a funk or when you feel that you're in a negative rhythm, she said, I want you to do intuitively the opposite of what your brain is telling you to do. So she was like, if you have a day and you've been losing a lot of money and you just want to stay in bed, get up and go for a walk. She was like, that's how you reset your brain for trading. Don't stay in that negative cycle. So sometimes we should do the opposite of what our instincts tells us to do, right? Okay, so I didn't know this at that time in the car, but I knew I didn't want to make the situation worse. So he's scared looking ahead. The car is quiet. I'm fuming, and I want to fuss. So I said, what am I going to do? Well, my friend Candy B, shouts out to my sis, she had given me, I can't remember the name of the song, but she had sent me a song earlier that week, like a day or two before. It was something like Unbreakable God, Unbeatable God, Undoubtable God, Undeniable God. I think it was Undeniable God or something. So I remember when she sent the song, I played it, I loved it. I said, okay, that's what I need to hear right now. So I hooked that up and I started playing that in the car. And I said, okay, I want to fuss at my son. I want to basically kind of sort of play into the devil's hands. When I thought about it later on and I processed it, I wanted to play into the devil's hand. I wanted to give the devil energy. And I said, instead, I'm going to give God praise. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to choose to be thankful that teacher told me in enough time, this can still be fixed. It can still be fixed. The grade is not final. So I'm going to choose to give God the praise that the teacher told me this, and it can still be fixed, instead of giving the devil energy right now and laying into my son. And so I put on that song, and then I posted earlier this week too about the power of touch, holding hands. When I never want my son to think that I'm mad at him because he was bad. He's not bad, but there are bad situations, right? So we have to distinguish and separate the situation from the person. So I said, okay, I don't know what he's thinking because he's not talking because he's scared to talk. I said, I don't know what he's thinking, but I have to do something to demonstrate that I still love him. Even though I'm pissed as hell, I have to demonstrate that I still love him. So I grabbed his hand, right? I grabbed his hand because holding hands is just something, right? And I can tell I grabbed his hand too tight because he kind of flinched. And I said, okay, Kim, don't do the death grip. Do a loving, tender touch. So I let up on some of my tension, and I just held his hand while that song came on. And then that song went off, and then the song You Know My Name came on, and then more praise songs. And as those songs were going, I just said, okay, I got to use the power of the tongue. It's good that this music is in the atmosphere, but I got to use the power of the tongue. And I just started speaking to the devil and saying, you know what? You've been playing with me all my life through the people closest to me. You've been playing with me all my life, getting to me to the people closest to me. Because and there was a lot of stuff going on, right? Because y'all like, oh, this is too deep. A lot of times students missing grades. But no, I pick up my son every single day from school. Every single day I ask him, how was school? Anything I need to know about? How are your grades? What did you learn today? There are certain kids in his class whose name I know. Some for good reasons, some for bad reasons. So sometimes I'll say, anything going on with so-and-so that I need to know about? So I engage with him and I ask him every single day. So there was no reason for him not to know that his grade was this low. And definitely for him not to tell me. So that's what I'm thinking. And yes, there were some other things that played into it too. But I started talking to the devil and I said, you know what? You keep playing with me through the people I love the most. And I said, Satan, you're not gonna have my son. You're not gonna have him acting up in school. You're not gonna have him not telling me what's going on. I say, and I put him on notice, because y'all know what? A lot of times we talk to God and we plead to God, but we don't put the devil on notice. With our tongue, I see your tricks. I know your tricks. You've been using the same tricks over and over for generations. For generations, you've been using the same tricks. And I had to tell the devil, you had my daddy before I was even born. You got to him before I was even born. And there have been multiple people in my family that you have played with, and it always starts with something little. And then, you know, before you know it, it's something out of hand. And so when I said, Satan, you can't have my son, I saw my son, a little tear just came down his eye, and then I started crying. So we're both on Highway 80, praise music blasting, holding hands, crying. And when everything died down and the emotions calmed down and we actually talked, and I said more than that, right? I said, Satan, you can't have my son. And I spoke life into the situation. I said, this boy just had a bunch of good grades. Now you're going to play with one of his classes. God, I know you got us. Thank you for the teacher caring about him enough. Thank you that I can pick up my son. Thank you that I'm the one that picks up my son from school and he didn't get on the bus and I wasn't working somewhere and then I come home late at night and now he, you know, what if I found out about this once the grade was permanent? So I spoke about all the good things, and that's another thing they said in our trading course too. They were like, anytime you feel a feeling of scarcity, if you lose a trade and you feel scarcity, then immediately go to abundance and realize you do not worry about how much 8 billion people on the planet, right? You never worry about, oh my gosh, is there enough oxygen for me to breathe today? No, you never worry about that. So in my trading course, they were saying, anytime you feel a negative emotion, go to a positive one. If you feel scarcity because you lost money, go to an abundance mindset. Look at all this oxygen in the world. Look at all the blades of grass. Look at what I'm doing. I'm learning a skill set, trading. And if I win, it doesn't take away from someone. Someone else doesn't have to lose for me to win. We can all win. And there's always another trade. And so applying that to this situation with my son, it was the same thing. I said, you know what? My son has done so good in his behavior. He's done so good with his grades. He's done so good with his communication. We have come so far in the last 4 years. We've come so far. I'm not going to let this situation, I'm not going to let this moment in time define and divide us. And when I spoke that's when my son, like I said, he really started crying then. And then, you know, I turned down the music and then we had a conversation about what went on. Now see, here's where it gets good, y'all. So we had a conversation about what went on. And I asked him, I said, how did this happen? What's going on? What am I doing wrong that you are not? Because see, it wasn't homework. So this is classwork. This is classwork. So I said, what are you doing in class that you're not doing the work that they give you time to do in class for you to have a 25%? What were you doing? Why weren't you doing the work like everybody else was? And he said, because I couldn't. What do you mean you couldn't? No, you mean you didn't. Not that you couldn't. He said, no, Mom, I couldn't. So I said, all right, I'll play along. Why couldn't you then, son? And he said, because I didn't have a computer. Now, y'all know a lot of times now we're in a different stage of learning now. So your kids have to come to school with tablets, with computers and things of that. They're doing a lot of stuff online. Their work has to be submitted online. So my son was like, because I didn't have a computer. I said, what? All right. Now there's a setup to this story. So you can get loaner computers at the beginning of the school year. However, you got to sign a release. I didn't want to go through all that. Sometimes the computers are nasty, whatever the case may be. So my son, at the end of last year, I got him his own computer, and I had gotten him a brand new computer at the end of last year. A brand spanking new computer. So he has this brand new computer, and he has a Chromebook that's like 4 years old. The Chromebook, some of the pixels are out. The screen is like, it works, but it's on its last leg. You know what I'm saying? It's slow. It's the Chromebook is on the struggle bus. All right. So that's why I bought him a brand new computer. So why is my son saying he didn't have a computer? I'll tell y'all. His computer he took to his dad's house when he was there for the summer. He accidentally left it there. Now, that computer has been at his dad's house since June. I have asked his dad for it repeatedly. He will not give it back. He claims to not know where it is. Oh, I forgot where I put it. I let him know our son needs this computer for school. I bought this computer. Like, this is what I bought it for. But I know, and this is why I chose to share this story. Some of y'all are dealing with this exact same situation. You are no longer involved with someone who still wants to make you miserable. You are no longer involved with someone who you share a child with, so you're still involved with them. And they're trying to exact methods of control over your life. They are trying, and I want you to remember this. Jesus needed a Judas. Jesus needed Judas. And it's oftentimes going to be the person closest to you who will do things to hurt you the most. So the computer that my son left at his dad's house that I can't get back, my son can't get back, brand new computer that I bought, it's just over there. So when school started, my son had to use the Chromebook, and that was, like I said, it's on the struggle bus, but it was at least getting the job done. Now, the whole time that my son is using this busted Chromebook that's 4 years old, I'm asking for the computer the brand new computer that I just bought, right? And I realized the more I ask for it, the more joy he gets out of not giving it to me, because I've been down this road with him before, and some of y'all have dealt with the same exact situation. I was reading something on this post where this guy was talking about how his child's mother would send the kids with dirty clothes, too tight clothes when it was his visitation week. He would always buy clothes, and then you don't want to send your kids back with clothes that are too tight. I don't know why you would do that to your children. I cannot wrap my head around people that have the kids in the crosshairs and they're fine with that. But this guy was saying that the child's mother would always send the kids with too tight clothes, dirty clothes, or whatever. So then when he would get the clothes, he already knew he had to buy clothes for them. He sends the kids back, and it was over and over and over again. The next time they come, too tight clothes, dirty clothes, he could never get back the clothes that he bought, so he just had to keep buying clothes over and over and over again. I don't understand that. I will never, ever understand using your kids to get back at somebody else in a way that hurts your kids. I'll never understand that. So strange to me. So I've been down this road before, and I realized the more I ask him for it, he just gets joy out of exacting control over the situation. So I've just stopped asking at this point. And my son has asked for his computer back, but there's nothing he can do. His dad just says, "Oh, I don't know where I put it. I forgot where I put it." A whole brand new computer. So anyway, my son was using a Chromebook, but here's another lesson in this story, which is why I decided to share it with y'all. He was using the Chromebook, and it was doing what it was doing. The reason why my son did not have so I already told you why my son did not have his brand new computer, right? Now I'm going to tell you why he didn't have his Chromebook to do his work. Because as a single parent that works from home, there are oftentimes, unfortunately, when my son, only child, doesn't have anybody to play with, and he'll do stuff on the computer, right? He'll go on YouTube, he's looking up stuff, he's into YouTube video editing, so he was doing that for a while, but every now and then, he gets on those games. And I'm not a fan of the games, but I do let him release a little bit. Well, I check his computer, and y'all, I'm telling you, if your child has a phone or a computer, please check your child's devices. Please check your child's devices. I've let my son know I respect your privacy, but it's also my job to protect you. So I will be checking your phone. He doesn't have a phone. I will be checking your computer, and y'all should be checking their phones. So I've let him know this. I will be checking your computer. And so the week before this happened, I checked his computer. Y'all, he had connected with people on a Discord service, and he was talking personally to complete strangers. And I had just checked his computer a few days prior, and this was not on there. So in a very short period of time, he had literally connected with different people. And he was like, I mean, when I say this thing freaked me out, it freaked me out. I woke him up at 4 o'clock in the morning when I found out, because that's when I saw it. I woke him up at 4, and he was like, Mom. I was like, no, you wake up. I was like, what was that girl on Bad Girls Club with the pan and the pot? Bang, bang, get up. And that's how I was. I was like, wake up. You got to be coherent. I was like, what is this? And he was like, I don't know. And he was completely clueless. Okay? He was like, it's a kid like me. I said, you don't know who this is. Don't tell me it's a kid like you. You don't know who this could be. A grown man. This could be a grown woman masquerading as a kid. And I had to let him go to sleep because he had school the next day. But when I say I cried myself to sleep, I cried myself to sleep that night, because I was like, damn, we would never leave our front door open, right? You would never leave your front door open because strangers could come in. And it's your job as the parent in the house to protect your house. But through these devices, computers, cell phones, strangers are literally in the palm of your child's hand. Right? The strangers are in your house, in your child's bedroom, and you don't even know it. Unless you're checking. So that's why. So when I saw that, immediately I was like, I'm going to delete this server. But then I said, no, I'm not deleting nothing until I read every single chat to know what has been said. Now, I will say this. What I saw didn't look like anything but talks about game. My son did disclose one piece of personal information that I could not believe he shared. It was not the address, thank God. It wasn't the school, thank God. But he did disclose something that you couldn't have told me he would have disclosed. So I was very upset about that. But I didn't see anything that, like I said, I just checked it that days prior. So there wasn't a whole lot of conversation that had happened, but too much for my level of comfort. So, like I said, I'm not deleting the Chromebook and giving it back to him. I took the Chromebook and I said, no, you can't have it, because I'm going to read every single chat. So that explains why my child did not have the Chromebook. So now you know why he didn't have his brand new computer, and now you know why he didn't have his old struggle bus Chromebook. So that is why my son could not. It's not that he didn't do his schoolwork in class. He couldn't do his schoolwork in class because his dad is holding his brand new computer hostage, and I took the Chromebook for his own protection. And this was the other part. So when I first took it away, the school was letting him use a loaner computer, but the last few days they didn't have any loaner computers. So kind of sort of his hands were tied. So when I heard this, I'm like, oh my gosh, why didn't you say something? He was like, you were so mad, I was scared to speak. And it's not that I was so mad. He knew he didn't feel like that was the right time to speak, which was true. So he was like, I was just waiting for that's what he said. I was waiting for the right moment to speak. And so I said, okay. So now it makes sense. I said, okay, son, I got you. I said, the only thing you did wrong in this situation, it's not your fault that you didn't have your computer. It is your fault, kind of, sort of, that you didn't have your Chromebook, but this is a life lesson. Which, by the way, y'all, when that situation happened with the Chromebook and I found that he was talking to complete strangers on the Discord server, the next day when he got home from school, he and I sat down and we watched back to back like stuff on YouTube about kids that have done this. If you have not done this, I strongly encourage you to do it with your children. There were so many stories of kids who connected with people through Snapchat, apps I've never even heard of before. There are some links that are being sent to your kids in these gaming chats, and the minute they click the link, it tells the other person their location. And I've never even heard of these apps before. So we watched so much stuff on YouTube, and he was really surprised. He was like, oh my gosh, now I see why you were so upset. I said, yeah. I said, it's my job to protect you, but you have to help me. You have to help me. And I've told him this before, but it's nothing like him seeing it with his own eyes. I've even tried to tell my ex, please do not let him play games. Please do not let him, because he told me, when I'm at my dad's house, I just go over to I just go with the little boy who is his dad's stepson. Me and him just be in the room playing games. And I've asked my ex, please don't let him do that. I even years ago sent my ex a documentary and was like, this is why. You and your girlfriend should watch this since she got a son, and y'all ain't watching them. Y'all should both watch this and be aware when y'all just let the boys be in the room. This is what is a possibility. Now, clearly, he didn't watch it. He doesn't care. Whatever. There's nothing I can do about that. But my son seeing it and seeing kids, some of which came back home traumatized, some of which never made it back home. Never made it back home. And this is not even strictly a single parent thing. There were kids in these various documentaries that had two parents in the house, mom and dad, and they're sneaking out in the middle of the night to meet somebody who flew in from Texas that they've been connected with online, and mom and dad have no clue. Like, I'm telling y'all, it's scary, but it's necessary. It's scary, but it is necessary. So that's why he didn't have the brand new computer and the old busted laptop. When we got home that day, though, once we calmed down, I told my son, I said, the only thing you did wrong is you did not communicate to me. Every single day with me asking you, how was school, what went on? You never communicated to me, hey mom, you know how you took my Chromebook? The school didn't have a loaner computer and I'm falling behind in my class. I said, that's the only thing that you did wrong. And he agreed. He said, I understand. He didn't make no excuses. He didn't try to shift any. He said, I understand. You're right. I apologize. I said, okay, it's cool. We're good. When we got home that day, I let him use my computer in the same room with me. Right? He banged out all those assignments. And we had dinner. It was cool. The next day, I see the same teacher. She said, we're good now. And I said, thank you so much. And I told her, I said, I just want to let you know, though, he wasn't trying to be a non-compliant student. He wasn't trying to, not do his work. And I had to let her know. I said, what happened was I took his Chromebook because I found out he was talking to strangers online. And I don't want to give it back to him until I go through every single chat and see exactly what was said. And the teacher was like, and I didn't do it in a way to embarrass him. The car was up. None of the other kids could hear what we were talking about. But the teacher was like, oh no, you can't do that. Because everybody always, all of these teachers, if they ever have anything to say about my son's grades that's negative, they always preface it with, he's a good kid. They always say something positive about his behavior, his demeanor, and how he is as a student and as a person as a whole, which again, it speaks volumes to the work that he and I have done in the last 4 years. Because I'm gonna tell y'all right now, when I first moved back to my hometown so that my mom and my grandmother could help me with this boy, because I ain't have no help in Atlanta. When I first moved here, there was a time when I was getting called to the school every single week for his behavior. Fighting, almost suspended, grades were horrible. It was hell. My mom would take off of work to come to the school with me so that we could present a united front in front of those administrators and let them know this boy has a village. Don't give up on this one. Don't give up on this one. And I'm thankful every single day for my mom, because I needed backup. I needed that help. And as my son saw me drop everything, and it set me back financially plenty of times when I had to stop work and go up there. Even when my car broke down, they would call me and say, he's acting up, da-da-da-da-da. I said, give me 30 minutes. It took me 30 minutes to walk to school. I said, I'll be there in 30 minutes. I would stop everything, walk to the school 30 minutes, walk back home, try to get some schoolwork, try to get some work done, try to get some money in the house. But you know what? It was worth it, because had I not been there for my child then, I can only imagine the nightmare that he and I would be going through right now. Had my mom not come with me, had we not let that school know, don't give up on this one. We're here. We're going to do our part. Just work with us. I can only imagine where we would be right now. And that's and I see a lot of my customers on here. This is why I thank my customers all of the time. I was talking to Vanessa Underwood. I just called her whole name. But I was but I was texting her, because she asked me the other day. She just ordered from me, and then she said, I need to order some products for my dad. And I told her I'll get back with you. And I didn't get back with her. I got back with her later than I had promised. And I told her, I said, girl, thank you for being so patient with me. She was like, we cool. And this is why I always thank my customers who have been rocking with me, who display patience with me, who love on me. They don't have to do it. But when y'all, every single purchase that y'all make is money coming into my house to keep me in the house so that I can do these things for my child. So I do not take it for granted. And I will always try to have a reciprocal relationship with y'all, to where I'm giving you the best deals. I'm giving you the best service. I'm not perfect by a long shot, but this is why I'm always big up in my customers. So what are the things that I want you to take away from this? Things I want y'all to take away from this is, if you have children, and we have a tendency, y'all, to let our hands off of our kids when they get into middle school. No! And we really let our hands off of them when they get into high school. That is not what you should be doing. You've got to be more present than everything. Than any time as they get older, because a lot of these kids are being raised by social media. They are being raised by the TV. They are being raised by their older siblings who are raised by social media and the TV. And we've got to be a presence in the schools. The school has got to know, oh, that's so-and-so parent. That's so-and-so daddy. That's so-and-so mama. Oh, they don't play. Oh, I know if I tell him or her, she's going to get it right. She's going to make him act right. Not, oh, here goes so-and-so parent. They never think their child do wrong. They always start in hell. You can't tell them nothing. No. We've got to work, because the teachers aren't perfect, y'all. But they got a lot on their plates too. But you have got to show your face. If you have to work and your kid catches the bus, I'm not mad at you. But be at those PTA meetings. Be at those open houses. Send emails. Ask the teachers, what's going on with your child? Is there anything I need to know about? Don't just wait for progress reports to go out and be like, how they got an F? How you don't know? You should know well before that time. And I understand that everybody is busy. Again, sometimes when you got two parents, you just got two busy people instead of one. But I'm telling you, it is worth it. Because had I not had a relationship, and if those people did not know, oh, that's his mama don't play, let me tell her, and then she'll get him at home, then if that teacher didn't tell me that, right, then I wouldn't have known, and that temporary grade would have been permanent. That's the first lesson. What's the second lesson? If you are dealing with raising a child with someone who wants to create chaos in your life, don't let them. Don't let them. Unfortunately, a divorce does not mean that you don't have to. You can't really divorce somebody that you share a child with, because you still gotta deal with them. But don't let them control you. You might buy, and I told my son, as a result of this experience, now, whatever my ex buys for our child, he's never allowed to bring it over to our house. No problem. I've never had that rule with my son, though. Because if they're his things, I've never wanted him to feel like he couldn't take something that I bought over to his dad's house if that's what he wanted to do. Now I have that rule, though. Now I have that rule. Because I got a whole brand new computer that I paid for, that you're holding hostage, you didn't pay for, and it's all just because you like to exact control over situations. Even at the expense of your child. And I've been through this with him before. I'll tell you what'll probably happen. I don't have the money to buy my son another computer right now. I just don't. What will probably happen, because this has happened before. What will probably happen is when I get the money to buy my son another computer, and if my ex knows, then he'll magically find the computer and give it back. It's just a power play. It's just a power play. And when you're in this situation, you know, there'll be people around you, they'll say, don't worry about it. Don't let it get to you. And it's really, really hard, though, because when it affects your pockets, you're like, this is not just about my emotions. This is about my money. I need that money for other things. This person is creating problems, and I already have enough on my plate. All of that is very well true. But you cannot control that other person. You can't. So the best thing you can do is you got them out of your house, right? The good news is you don't have to deal with them every day. That's the good news. But don't let them live here. Don't let them create problems between you and your child. What you do not want is the parent who spends less than 4 days with them a week, who just gets them for show and tell, to be the parent who lavishes them with gifts because they don't pay for nothing else. And then when the child comes back to you, now you're fussing at the child because you're stressed out about money. And so you become the nagging, mean parent, while that parent is the fun. You don't want division between you and your child. And you can't really worry about it, right? You can't really worry about it, because worry is basically praying for something that you don't want to happen. It's a form of prayer, kind of, sort of. Oh, I hope this. Oh, I hope that. But once you speak it, once you think it, the power that is in what you don't want, you don't want to give energy to what you don't want. So you have to know, I'm going to keep my faith because I know my faith is in the one who is faithful. And I've got to learn, what lesson does he want me to learn from this negative? What positive can I pull out of this negative interaction? For me, I'm thankful that my ex does some of the crazy crap that he does. Why? Because it shows me how I'm growing. It shows me how me and my son are growing together in our communication. And like I said, now the rule is in place. If I buy something for you, you can't take it to your father's. I'm sorry, but you can't. And when I told my son that, he said, I understand. I was so thankful, because I didn't want to fight. I didn't want to have a long discussion about, oh, but what if, and then he just simply said, I understand. And that was it. And I was like, oh, thank you, God. The other lesson that I want you all to take from this is, check your children's devices. Check your children's devices, okay? They have a phone, they have a computer. Do not let your child just go to the room with those devices. Now, every now and then that is going to happen, but make sure that you and let your child know, hey, you can have your privacy, but not at the expense of me protecting you. So, I'm gonna have parental controls on. On top of that, you're gonna log. How many of you know the password to your child's devices? them on notice. Let them know I have to check to make sure that you're not getting yourself in a situation that you can't get out of. If you don't know the password to your child's devices, I encourage you today to find out. Have them log in front of you. Have them give you the password and you type it in right then and there to make sure you got it right. Don't have them write it down and now their one looks like an L and you don't know what's going on. No. Have them sit next to you, tell you what the password is, tell you what the code is, and you type it in to make sure you got it right. And then you go through it and show your children these documentaries, these news stories on YouTube of children who have gone missing or been found but completely traumatized because they connected with somebody online who they thought was a like-minded child like them. There was a story of a young girl who was straight A student, good grades, perfect child, big home, pool in the back, mom and dad at home, brother right, perfect family. This young girl, 15 years old, connected with some guy online who told her, 27 years old, 27 years old. And he told her, I've never met anybody person like you. I've never met any person like you. You're so pure. You're so beautiful. You're so, showered her with all the things that every 15-year-old girl wants to hear. 27 years old. They've been talking, connecting. She's in her room on the computer. Parents have no idea. No idea. One day the dad asked the mom, is she in the pool? The mom looks outside and said, no. Y'all know where they found that girl? Downstairs in the basement. She had unalived herself. She had gone ahead and transitioned from her earthly suit by her own hands. That's the end. Why did she do that? Because one day that 27-year-old man told her, I'm coming to town. She snuck out in the middle of the night. Mom and dad in the same house. She snuck out in the middle of the night, met this 27-year-old man at a hotel. You can imagine what happened. He got back on the plane and flew back. She was already traumatized because of what he did, but then he further traumatized her by calling her every negative name in the book. Totally flipped the script. None of those nice pleasantries. And that experience tortured her so much, she didn't want to live anymore. That thing messed me up. And it can happen to anybody. Anybody. So, I'm thankful for this whole entire experience because now my son has a better understanding of he has a better understanding of the fact that this person who's playing this game with you might not be a child. The questions that they're asking might not just be as innocent as you think. This code, if you click this link to go to the next level in the game, it might tell them your location. It might not be as simple as them helping you out with a tip for a game. So y'all check your child's devices. And then the last lesson I want y'all to take from this is speak to the devil more than you question God. When you are in a situation with someone that you do love, always remember, if it's a bad situation, it is the situation that is bad, not them. It is the situation. And do not let the situation divide you. What the devil wanted that day is he wanted me to bless my son out because he had a 25 in the class. He wanted the teacher not to tell me, but that don't work because I'm there every single day. He wanted my son and I to be at each other. He wanted my son to hate me for taking the device. That didn't work, right? He wanted my son to hate me for blessing him out like I would have done years ago before I started working on how to communicate with my child better. Oh yeah, this was a plan. Because coming off of a high of my son having all those good grades, Oh yeah, he wanted to cause some division. And I'm so proud of not just, I can't take the credit alone. I'm proud of myself and my son that we communicated with each other, got over that hump. He has a great grade in that class. And like I said, and even that day when the teacher, when I explained to the teacher, this is why he didn't turn in his work. And the teacher was like, oh no, well, I'm happy your mom checked your computer. And all three of us were able to talk. And my son wasn't embarrassed. He wasn't mad that I told the teacher. I said, I just want her to know that you weren't just like, you know, thinking that her grades weren't important. I want her to know it was partially my fault, partially somebody else's, you know. I didn't even bring his dad into that situation, but I said I want her to know it was partially my fault, and the only fault that you have is you not communicating to me that you didn't have a loaner computer so we could make another arrangement. And when I told, and I always try to explain stuff to my son to let him know I'm always acting in your best interest. I try not to be a mom to be like, do it because I said so, or don't worry about it, just do it. No, I always try to walk him through why I'm doing the stuff I'm doing, so that it seems like what I want it to be. I want it to be a partnership instead of a dictatorship. Because if he's participating with me in his parenting, in his growth, if I have that buy-in from him, it's gonna be so much better. It's not gonna be temporary, it's gonna be permanent. And he's gonna remember how I made him feel when I just didn't say, do this because I said so. He's going to remember how I made him feel when I involved him, when I let him know I respect you enough to let you know why I'm doing this. Because it's not just for no reason. You see? He's going to remember how I made him feel. And hopefully when he has children of his own, he's going to do the same thing. And then he and I together can break some of these curses that have had a hold on my family and his father's family, where parents did rule out of fear, with a dictatorship, with a heavy hand. I'm happy I stopped spanking my child when I saw the spankers weren't doing nothing. Because it's so funny, if you really think about it. If you have a child and you're like, oh, he always getting whooped, well then don't that tell you that the whoopings ain't working? Why not try something new? If he's always getting whooped, then the whoopings ain't working. Duh. So I'm happy that I sought to say, okay, I'm going to learn how to, you can call it soft parenting, you can call it gentle parenting, I call it smart parenting. Because this boy is about to be 13 years old. He's big. He's big. And if I had relied on physical discipline with him, I have a big problem right now, y'all. If I had not committed to learning how to use my mouth instead of my muscle, I'd have a big problem, a really big problem on my hands right now. So I'm glad I did. And I'm glad I got the buy-in from my son. And I'm glad for everybody who's on here who this message is resonating with, because that was the whole point of me sharing the story. Everything is all good now. And the things that's not going to be good, I know even if it doesn't feel good, it is still somehow working out for my good. Even if it doesn't feel good. And I am committed, for all the Judases in my life, I am committed to taking a positive lesson out of any type of negative interaction that they try, any type of negativity that they bring to my life. I'm committed to finding, why is this happening? What is the positive lesson I can take out of this? And definitely, how can I help? Because if any of y'all are going through troubles with your child and with your grades, I'm here to tell you, I understand. Trouble with your child's other parent, I'm here to tell you, I understand. You're not alone. Trouble with your child communicating, I understand. You're not alone. I don't want, because the devil loves for you to feel isolated too, right? Isolation leads to desperation. You're not alone. But y'all, we got to get on podcasts, we got to read books, we got to listen to interviews. We got to become more intelligent about how we deal with our children, because these are young men and young women in the making. And if we do not teach them now how to effectively communicate, if we don't teach them how to use their words, if we don't teach them how to process things correctly, then what's going to happen is, if they don't know how to communicate verbally, they're going to communicate physically. That's how you got so many people right now shooting up places, going to jail, assaulting people. I'm telling you, it is imperative that each person does their part in their household, right? To put forth effective, positive change. These children cannot raise themselves, and their older siblings didn't have them. So if you got an 18-year-old and you just bust one out, don't be expecting the 18-year-old to be the parent to that child while you go regain your youth. Don't you do that. That 18-year-old is still a kid. Don't you make your oldest child a single parent, because you tired of being a single parent. Don't you do that. Anything below anything below a 50 is just something. I don't know what that is, but I'll read it later. But anyway, thank y'all for joining. I hope you found benefit out of this. If you did, drop down below and let me know. And again, this isn't a male bashing thing, and it's not a deadbeat dad thing. It is because the only thing that's going on with my ex is that he's not committed. He doesn't have to be committed to growing as a parent. He doesn't have a child. He doesn't deal with this boy on a daily basis like I do. He doesn't even know the effects of some of the things that he does, because my son doesn't tell him. Why? Because he's scared to tell him. And there are tons of people like him. People, not men. People include women. There are tons of women who are completely out of tune with their children and have no idea how they're traumatizing their own children. I'll tell you this one thing and I'll leave. I had students when I was working in the education system, and it was a single mom, and all the time it was a single mom. But I've heard of mothers leaving their children and going on. I remember when I was driving Uber and Lyft, I got a call one day to pick up a child, to take them to school. The woman calls, because you know they don't have your direct number, but they can call through a relay service or whatever. So I get a call and it's like, hey, is this Kim? I'm like, yeah. They're like, okay, this is so and so. I just want to let you know you're picking up my child. And at that time, you're not supposed to do that. You're not supposed to give a minor child a ride. However, I don't work for Uber and Lyft no more. I would take the rides because I know some of the people that drive Uber and Lyft, and I'd rather the child be with me than some of these psychos. I'm just gonna tell y'all. So, because if I reject the ride and then you get some of the people that are in the group with me and I see how they think and I see some of the things they say, I feel sorry for your daughter or your son. Okay? So, unfortunately, I would take those rides. But I remember this mother had called me and she was like, hey, I'm so-and-so, just want to let you know you're about to pick up my daughter because she missed the bus this morning. And I'm like, okay. And she was like, yeah, I just wanted to reach out and get a feel for you. And I said, okay, no problem, understandable. I'm thinking she's at work. And she's like, I feel a lot more comfortable now that I've spoken to you, because y'all, homie was in a whole nother state. Basically, it sounded like on a girl's trip. Hello. And I'm just like, what? In my head. But yeah, there are kids. Don't y'all get it twisted. Your children right now are sitting in class next to some kids who are raising themselves. They get up in the morning, they get dressed, they get on the bus, they come home on the bus, they have Uber Eats deliver food, or they have food left for them by their parent, and they might not see their parent for days at a time. And these kids are trying to figure it out by themselves. How to process their feelings, how to process their emotions. They're being raised by the internet and all these apps and social media. And they're sitting and they're not processing correctly, and they're sitting right next to your child in school. Poor kids. But anyway, y'all, I'm gonna go back and get on my own, listen to one of my courses, because I should be there shortly. Thank y'all for listening. excuse me. Thank y'all for listening, and I hope you found something helpful in this. Again, not only learn to communicate with your children, but with everybody that you love. Do so in a spirit of love. Do not let the devil come between you and your loved ones with all of his little tricks, these same old tricks. Learn them and don't keep falling for them. I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.